One of the things that sets Deepwoken apart from practically every game on Roblox is its original soundtrack, scored by the absolute legend known as Nactagonus. But Deepwoken isn't the only game to ever release on Roblox with an original soundtrack, so what is it that this game does differently? Let's start with the ocean. Your first time setting out to the ocean in Deepwoken will cue the sounds of waves crashing, along with the melodic chimes and strings of the ocean's theme, to shores distant. You'll notice that most of the tracks in Deepwoken blend a mix of ambient environmental audio and melodic instrumentation. This is where the game gets pretty much all of its atmosphere. It'll seamlessly cue its soundtrack into ambient audio that pertains to the location that you're in. In fact, you'll notice that if you mute the music, you're also muting the ambience. When you listen to Deepwoken's soundtrack on Spotify, which you should, you'll hear all of the game's ambience right along with it. This is reminiscent of a technique used by a lot of AAA games to set the atmosphere for their game, notably Red Dead Redemption 2 and The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which are just some examples, but I find them to be the best comparison for Deepwoken's sound design. Neither of these games necessarily include ambient audio in their soundtrack, but you'll find as you're exploring the game's world that the music tends to swell up into the ambient audio you're already hearing. Deepwoken, however, literally includes the ambience in the music. It's an interesting approach, one I don't think I've ever actually seen before, and love it or hate it, you can't deny the effect it has on the feel of the game. For the first step in our journey, I'm going to take you to the tutorial island for Deepwoken, Eresia. This is the ambient theme for Eresia, the trappings of a lord. It's one of the first examples for the sonic consistency across all of the Deepwoken soundtrack. Its melody is pretty calming, liberally using what sounds like a woodwind instrument and some kind of soothing piano mixed in tandem with the sounds of blowing wind and distant bird calls. Where this all really starts to shine is in fighting the final boss of this area, the Duke of Eresia. Once you begin the fight, his theme, Sin-Smelted Scoria, greets you with the main Deepwoken leitmotif immediately. The genius here comes from the way Nactagonus weaves this melody in using a mix of some of the Eresia melodies and all of the same instruments you've been hearing in the Eresia soundtrack, creating a sense that this is essentially what you've been building up to by exploring Eresia. As for Minitirsa, the track here contains a howling wind for its ambience and a progressive piano melody, probably one of my favorites in Deepwoken. The theme is titled A Waltz of Snow and Nights. It's probably one of the most mysterious sounding tracks in the OST. One of my favorite things about this area, though, is the combat theme, which contains pretty much the same percussion patterns that exist in To Fight Sanguine, but a touch of that Minitirsa vibe. You'll notice a lot of repeating patterns in the soundtrack overall. It helps keep the language of the audio familiar and gives the game its own distinct identity. Moving on to the Eastern Luminant, I'm only going to cover Starswept here for the sake of time, and also because it's probably my favorite of the overworld areas. The Starswept theme is titled In Starstruck Sands. It uses what sounds like a pluck instrument for its primary melodies, along with some string instruments. The first thing you notice is how, well, Eastern the melody sounds. This theme definitely feels like a desert theme, which is really the only way I can describe it, but the combat theme, Pyres of Glass, has probably the most hyperactive sound of all of the other overworld combat tracks. This shit slaps. It's easily my favorite overworld combat theme. I mean, just listen to the percussion and this fast-paced melody. What I've shown you so far is only scratching the surface of the best tracks in Deepwoken's soundtrack. So let's head below the surface of the sea to the first layer of the depths, Scyphosia. It's an eerie mix of bubbling sounds and what sounds like water droplets hitting a solid surface, with high-pitched droning and a reverberating plucked string instrument that gives us the main melody. The actual instrumentation remains somewhat sparse initially, but begins to build an almost uncomfortable mix of the initial pluck and a distant choir. I don't know if I'm crazy for saying this, but it gives me the vibe that you're not supposed to be here. It offers a sense of unease and dread, like someone's watching you at all times. And then, just when you think you're used to the ambience and the sound of the depths, the second depths theme will chime in and then swell up. This track is titled Oscillation, and it's one of my personal favorites in the Deepwoken soundtrack, second only to this. Lacrimosa Deus Illa, Latin for the Day of Tears. This track is one of the first I ever heard for Deepwoken, and it holds a special place in my heart. The very first time you find yourself in any danger in the depths, that combat tag sting plays, and this violent, crushed percussion starts to fill your ears. Yeah, that's a one-way track to shitting yourself, buddy. All of the tracks I've shown you so far came prior to the Verse 2 update, which included some of Nactagonus' best work, and frankly, some of the best atmosphere in any game on Roblox or in general. So let's head a layer deeper, the Eternal Gale. After Claris beams you down, or I guess after you fucking fall into layer 2, this is what you hear. Nactagonus absolutely loves his droning synths, as you can tell, but the melody in this track, The Storm That Speaks, is probably one of the most efficient in setting the tone for an area in the game. I love Layer 2's ambience. It's easily some of the best sound design in a Roblox game to date, and it invokes the perfect amount of tension for the timed excursion into the Layer 2 dungeon needed with this brilliant build-up. But the real fun begins when you start a fight. I don't even know where to begin to describe each layer of the instrumentation here. The rapid percussion and the synth string that expertly escalates the lay motif found in the ambient tracks for layer 2, not to mention the almost Toby Fox feel with some of the retro-esque synth work. Dude, there are just too many layers, no pun intended, to this track to even cover. But my absolute favorite part of this track, and what really sells the point of this video, is the callback to the end of the theme to Lacrimosa Deus Illa. What I'm trying to convey to you here is that Deepwoken has one of the most sonically distinct soundtracks that honestly contributes to the identity that this game has to a level that, take a shot every time you hear me say this in a video on this channel for some easy liver damage. Anyway, that I never thought was even possible for a Roblox game. All of that, of course, is mostly thanks to Nactagonus, who has demonstrated his prowess in composition by creating one of the most iconic soundtracks, not just on Roblox, but that I've really ever heard. If anyone deserves this level of glaze, it's this man. And of course, Archmage for setting up all of it on the technical end, but that's a whole other video, if I'm being real. So yeah, next time you're on Deepwoken, unmute the fucking music, man. If I haven't convinced you that it absolutely slaps yet, I really don't know how to. Thanks for watching my video. If you enjoyed it, you can support me in a number of ways, namely liking the video, leaving a comment, and sharing it with your friends. It also wouldn't hurt to subscribe and ring the bell so you can get notifications about all of my posts, and if you're feeling really generous and you've got a little free time, go check out my new channel for gaming content. I cover a lot of nostalgic games over there and also do a bit of media critique, so please check me out. Alright, that's all for me. Have a beautiful day or night or whatever the hell it might be for you. Bye bye.